Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. If you're in Chennai, you'll know it's a beautiful rainy morning, and I hope you're all enjoying your Sunday morning and taking a break from work. Um, we're doing a small series called What Happens Next every day, and we have various different speakers from various different arts practitioners and capacities from all over the world. Today we have a very special speaker and guest. She is a founder of the Ion India Festival in Chicago. She's also a part of two boards, the Goodman Theatre and the Victory Gardens Theatre. And she's also a donor herself, and she's fundraised many hundreds and thousands of dollars for the arts and for festivals in Chicago. So I'd love to bring her on at this moment. Give me a second. Hi Anu.
Hi,
Ladies and
Shreya.
gentlemen, meet Anuradha Behari.
Hello, everyone. And thank you for
Thank,
having me.
thank you for being awake at midnight in Chicago.
Oh, this is fine. There's no time, there's no weekday anymore. We just roll in and
Exactly.
out.
Absolutely. I was just telling our viewers that if you're in Chennai, it's been quite hot for the last 10 days, but today's been raining. So I feel suddenly it's a new experience from the hot weather. I feel
Oh,
like
nice.
I feel like the gods are telling us it's Sunday, take a break, sleep in.
So,
Some
no, it was
some external force were giving us some.
raining in Chicago all day today.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so
But Chicago is
yeah.
always gloomy and rainy, right? I remember that from when living
Almost,
there.
almost, yeah. Yeah, we relish our sunshine.
Right, exactly. So I would love to ask you a quick question. I mean, we have a couple of questions, and since this is
Sure.
a short series of 15 minutes, I thought, Anu, let me just jump in. You're a part of the Goodman Theatre and Victory Gardens. What
Sure.
are these two institutions and you, as part of these two institutions, doing right now with COVID and everything being shut down?
So I think I mean, just to put it in context, the Chicago arts community has been hit really hard. So there's
Right.
been a loss of over $100 million. We've lost about 24,000 performances that were canceled and about 3,500 full-time jobs. And at a depending on what board I am, so at the Goodman, while it's one of the largest and the oldest not-for-profit theaters. There's no way you can carry on theater at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But people are trying to be more innovative.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the key things that I see with both the organizations, which I feel is very critical in this moment, is the leadership and the administration is way more communicative with what's going on, what
Mm.
they are doing to make sure that they maintain the connection with their key donors and with their past performances. So what we have seen is anytime you revisit
Mm-hmm.
online, for example, one of the more popular programs, it does bring the community together.
Right. Right.
And as being on the board, we've been connecting at least once a week uh, in different capacities. So the entire board meets once a month,
Mm-hmm.
but in your different capacity for audience development, for fundraising, for financials, you're meeting almost weekly. So those
Yeah.
engagements are very, very important and critical.
Mm-hmm.
You get to reconnect with the staff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you are also inspired by how much and the spirit of the leadership in bringing this community together and how everybody realizes that it's about how we can help in this time and how we
Yeah.
can just keep people motivated.
Mm-hmm.
And the great part is you can discuss anything. Like anything is possible. So
Yeah.
for example, for Victory Gardens being at a much smaller scale than a Goodman,
Yeah.
the possibilities are almost now like a level playing field. So if
Yeah.
you look at a huge concert that the BBC, that UK did with Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift and so on,
Mm.
the kind of performance that you see is the same as what one of us are able to do with the artists that
True.
are not as big, and or so it's about finding that right aesthetic and connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the key is to stay connected, and key is for the leadership to step in and make sure they talk to their donors, because the donors care. The
Yeah.
organization, they're part of those organizations because they care,
Yes.
and nobody's running away.
Yeah.
It's just let's figure out a way to support in a sustainable manner, to make
Mm.
sure that we are spending our time and energy on
Mm-hmm.
what is more meaningful at this time. So, for example, one of the things with the Goodman is they moved their gala online. So the
Mm.
fundraising will
Oh,
be online because it was to be in May. So it's going
right.
to be a virtual gala. The board
Yeah.
is expected to chip in kind of in a similar fashion. With the
Oh.
Victory Gardens, one of the things, their theme is to celebrate Chicago stories. So what they're
Mm.
trying
Yeah.
to do is engage with the community. So share the Chicago stories of the frontline workers. Figure out a way that how their educational programming can give back to
Mm.
children of the frontline workers, what kind of programming they can create, both online or once the organization is back and running, what can they do? How can they bring the former playwrights into a conversation to discuss a play that was very successful? And people
Correct.
have fond memories of a play or something that they've seen before. So
Mm-hmm.
it's every day it's a new idea, but the
Yeah.
key is
Absolutely.
engagement, still engagement.
For sure. And I think again, it depends on the leadership and their capacity to also engage, whether small or big organization, right? I was reading somewhere that people are also seeing a dip in donors because donors, obviously being businessmen or
Right.
philanthropists, or they are not able to contribute like they were before because of the economic downfall
Exactly.
that they're facing
Exactly.
or they're going to have. How are do you feel the same situation with the
I
two
do.
organizations
You do
or even
feel
not
that.
one?
Definitely. Definitely. Because the net worth of the donors has gone down,
Yes.
and everybody is uncertain about where what it's going to be like, when it's going to end. I think the most challenging part of this whole issue is that there's no timeline. So
Mm,
people don't know what they should be preparing for. In
right.
addition, there
Right.
is also this competition for that same level of resources for needs that may be more dire. And
Yes.
that's just the reality of the situation. And so some of the money will be less, and I think the art organizations realize that. And that's where the ability of the leadership to keep its key donors
Correct.
and engage them, but
Yeah.
also then try to work with the local government. So finally, we have the governor of Illinois and the mayor's fund. They donated
Mm,
$5 million so that you can have some individual grants and some grants for organizations.
fantastic. That's really good to hear. So you were saying that the Chicago artists have been hit pretty bad, and I think that's the case world over too. How do you think the artists are coping with it right now? How are they? Do you have any idea on what they're doing or planning for their next, like how next 5, 8 months for them?
I
Would
think
you
the
mind?
long term planning I haven't seen just as much yet. I think
Yeah.
in the short run, the first one, I think the first phase was let's see what we can do for the community to just pause. So the
Yes.
lockdown here happened much later. So we
Yeah.
locked down, almost in the third week of March. And
Mm-hmm.
in that too, the first I think it's sunk in a little bit later here that
The serious.
that this lockdown is a very different kind of lockdown. And so the first month almost was, how can we help to make the situation better? People were not thinking about themselves just yet. But I think in the last 2 or 3 weeks, you're starting to see a lot more online engagement with local artists. And
Right.
they're coming out and doing online performances and engaging
Right.
and trying to do some group concerts. Um, but it's still relatively new. I think the long term situation and how they're going to plan that out would require, I feel personally, organizations to come together and create these forums or models that are kind of similar in some ways, so people have an understanding that this is how you would engage with an organization or an artist.
Yeah.
And I think that will develop soon. People will see what works, what doesn't work, but
Yeah.
it's all happening in real time.
Yeah. Absolutely. A few things kind of stood out from what you told me. For those of you who don't know, actually, Anu and I have worked together with Iron India, and we've done the gala together. We did some fundraising together. And we had a lot of fun.
We had a
And so I know how the organization works there and how Anu thinks. So I'm gonna just tweak that question a little bit for you. So there are two things. One is, supposing I'm an artist and I don't have a strong donor base, or I've just been applying to grants or whatever, right? I don't have those strong people to approach to ask for funds for sustainability at this
right,
point. What do I do? Supposing I connect somebody to you, for example, you as a donor, if there's a new artist who comes up and says, hey, I'm so and so, I need help at this point in time, how do you decide whether some of your resources should go to him as a donor? And the second one, again, at a time like this, you feel like, should I be giving my money here or there? And there are hundreds of different people who are asking, right?
right,
As well as, so then again, like you said, the engagement matters of the institution or of the artist or of the
right.
organization. So in that case, you as a donor, how are you making those decisions on where you want to give at this point in time?
I think the key to how we looked at, I think this with Iron India specifically, but also for us as an organization and bringing artists to Chicago, just to give a little bit of an idea to
Right.
the folks that are listening,
Yeah.
that Iron India brings artists from Chicago and India together. But what is unique about Iron India is that we do everything, all our programming and events are in partnership with a local organization or a local artist. And we do have artists come and say, oh, this is what we're good at, this is what you should do. But the artists that invariably we end up working with are folks that have spent enough time and understanding of what we are about and what is our goal and what's our mission. And then do that research on how they can then
Be a
align
part of
their mission and their programming with ours. And that's how we've approached all the programming with Iron India as our partners. So if we are working with the Chicago Shakespeare Theater, we need to understand their landscape, their market, their audience, as well as best we can. And then we can offer them the choices that
right,
would be good. And the same
right.
as a donor, right?
Yeah.
When you're looking at somebody's coming to you with a with an idea or a thought, then you see what is it that they're contributing to that organization or that program.
Mm. Okay.
So I think it's that alignment of the mission. And
Yeah.
the second part where, how do you decide under this circumstance with COVID and the challenge with the resources? I think it will be the same. How do you, for me, I think, which is what Victory Gardens is trying to do, is how do you align what the community needs now
Right.
with the
Exactly.
artistic goal?
Yeah.
Because I think a huge part of what the arts can do is the healing process and take
Yeah.
you into another space and another world which is creative and still gives you a expression. And what is happening right now when you're kind of in a claustrophobic environment, that creative freedom is very, very healing. And
Yeah,
we really do realize when we see the programming and the energy of the artist
yeah,
that you don't have to go too far. It's a state of mind.
yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. That's actually, I think it'll be really helpful for some of our viewers because one of the questions I've been getting is the same thing, right? Oh, I need funds, but they're looking for a long-term relationship with the donor, but they're looking at it at a time of crisis because they haven't had the time, or for whatever reason they haven't developed that in the past. So it's a tricky time to approach a donor
It's a tricky
for
time.
somebody like you know. And like you said, I think the strongest way is to align with the community and then align with their own personal mission,
Right.
whether they're
You
for
to
the
do your
organization or
research.
not.
I think the key is understanding the
Yeah,
donor and what they're passionate about.
yeah,
And usually you, as an artist, you have that spectrum, but
right.
you do have
Yeah,
to make sure that you're coming across and understanding what the other person's need is.
yeah, absolutely. So the last question I just have is, do you have any words of wisdom for our audience who are a mix of arts managers and artists and donors? Our audience is kind of mixed from all over the world. Do you have any advice for them or anything? Any words?
I think the first thing is that we have to really understand the creative and the nourishing side of the arts. And
Right.
in this time of crisis, I think, there's all kinds of aspects. There's the activist aspect, there's the nourishing aspect, there's the creative, there is the experimental.
Yeah.
I think the nourishing aspect of an art or a creative process uh, is key to getting people through, right?
Mm,
And I think this live engagement and that sense of belonging with, you know, whatever that little group that comes online together.
yeah.
There are familiar names, and you suddenly see some of those familiar names among the 300 that are watching something live,
Yeah.
and you're immediately with a group of people that you didn't think you were with. So that's
Right.
nice. And I think I'm very, very hopeful that it will entertain us and it will engage us and it'll keep us connected. So I think
Mm,
arts are the most beautiful way still to
mm,
engage and connect and keep us in this positive state of mind.
for sure.
Um, but to be resilient in this time as an
Yes.
artist, I think it's tough. I think it's very tough for all of us to go through this, but especially now for the arts where the one-on-one contact is key, is to be
Mm,
resilient, and we should hope that this is going to pass and we'll come out stronger on the other side.
absolutely. On those very wise words, we're going to wrap up today's session.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Anu, for joining
Thank you
us.
so
Really
much for
appreciate
having me. This was so nice to reconnect with you, Shreya. Always.
it. Yes, yes. And follow their page, Ion India. Follow Anu. She does very interesting work. But Anu, you have to share more on your Instagram and everything. That's
I
my
do. I
push
do.
for you.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Super. Thank you so much, Anu. Have a good weekend, and we'll be in touch.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Bye
Bye.
bye, everyone. Take care.